Drake isn't who you think he is. From hiding his criminal history, having a curse that ruins lives, and having a ghostwriter, these are 10 things you didn't know about Drake. Before we see the real Drake, let's talk about what he wants us to know. Drake's parents split when he was 5, and he was raised by his mom, although his father occasionally visited. From a very early age, the signs pointed to him having a future in showbiz, being a child model, and accompanying his father to music recording sessions during the summer. But did you know his uncle, Larry Graham, used to be a famous bassist who performed with Prince? Aubrey literally grew up around musical influences. It's no wonder why he has the range he does today. Drake also took up acting at an early age, performing in theater before the age of 10. This led to him scoring a couple of roles in a few Canadian TV series before he was even able to drink alcohol, including the now famed Degrassi: The Next Generation as basketball player Jimmy Brooks. Recently, rappers have been mocking him for appearing in Nickelodeon shows despite him acting so tough in public, which is quite embarrassing. Now, as we all know, Drake was never really broke, despite his claims that he didn't have much money. He grew up in a nice Jewish neighborhood in Toronto. We all know him as a rapper nowadays, but he had some weird experiences with music at a young age. Early music career and discovery by Lil Wayne. Drake had begun experimenting with music by the time he was 10, and while he was still on the cast of Degrassi, he was a member of a short-lived group called the Renaissance, which included Canadian R&B singer and Grammy-winning artist Melanie Fiona. I bet you didn't know that. Back then, he used to release his tracks on his MySpace account. Oh, how times have changed. He released his first mixtape in 2006, which was called Room for Improvement, and it got enough airplay in Toronto that he decided to release Comeback Season, his second official mixtape, the very next year, and even got a Trey Songz feature on one of the tracks called Replacement Girl. Another thing you didn't know was that he would go on to meet his future producer and partner, Noah Shabib, or 40 as he is commonly called, on the set of the Replacement Girl music video. Following the success of his mixtapes, Drake, through his connections with Rap-A-Lot founder Jay Prince, got to join Lil Wayne on his I Am Music tour. And this built a lot of anticipation for his third mixtape, So Far Gone, which went on to be so successful, it sparked a bidding war for his signature, and in the end, he agreed to the terms of Young Money Cash Money Records and a distributive collaboration with Universal Music Group, receiving a $2 million advance, all publishing rights, and 75% of sales revenue. What a sweet deal! It seems like everything was going well for Drake, but some people thought that everything was fake. Could he have a ghostwriter? Ghostwriter controversies and beefs. In 2015, Meek Mill took to Twitter to accuse Drake of not writing his own raps and claimed he would have taken Drake's verse out of their collab Rico if he had known that was the case. OG Mako, a popular rapper at the time, came out to support Meek's claims, stating that Drake had a ghostwriter called Quentin Miller in a tweet Meek seemed to confirm. This led to some back and forth between the pair, where 40 even had to come out and confirm on a tweet that Quentin Miller did in fact contribute on Drake's project. If you're reading this, it's too late. And also some of the most epic diss tracks of 2015, including Back to Back, where Drake dropped the famous line, "Is it a world tour or your girl's tour?" referencing Meek's then girlfriend Nicki Minaj. This led Meek to release a comeback diss track called Wanna Know. Drake also threw digs at Meek in his joint mixtape with Future, What a Time to Be Alive, released in the same year. The feud officially ended in 2018, when Drake brought Meek out on stage at his Boston concert. But that would not be the end of spats with rappers for Drake that year, as hip-hop artist Pusha T, who he had a long-standing beef with for over 7 years following his associations with Lil Wayne, also accused him of using ghostwriters on his Daytona album. Following this, there was some back and forth between them on social media, which led to Pusha releasing a diss track called The Story of Adidon, where he exposed Drake for having an illegitimate son while mocking his dad and his attitude towards blackness. He also used a real picture of Drake wearing blackface as the cover of the song, which led to numerous statements from Drake. In response to this, Drake dropped a comeback diss track for Pusha called Duppy Freestyle, but went on to expose his son. But having a ghostwriter isn't the only thing Drake doesn't want you to know. Drake has even made efforts to hide his criminal history. But before we get to that, let's talk about his fake body? Fitness and surgeries. Having been relatively skinny growing up, and even during his earlier years in the industry, Drake seemed to bulk up almost overnight. So much so, people began to accuse him of going under the knife. And there were numerous rumors of him getting the male liposuction to get a six-pack, which is a simply hilarious allegation. Drake has been known to take his fitness routine seriously, and he even has state-of-the-art facilities at his manor house as well as a world-class fitness trainer. So you can't really think he would invest so much into his fitness journey if he could have just gone under the knife. However, a more believable allegation is that Drake got a rhinoplasty and septoplasty to reduce the size of his nasal tip and lift the bridge of his nose. This is more believable because comparing his older photos with the newer ones reveal that some work was probably done there. But who really cares though? The man is rich enough to do whatever he wants if it makes him feel better, as long as it doesn't ruin other people's lives. The Drake curse. Did you know that Drake is cursed? There is a running sports meme about how sports teams and athletes usually perform badly immediately after having a public interaction with Drake getting posted to social media. A host of teams and athletes have fallen victim to this supposed curse. There were even some jokes going around about an infinite money glitch where you could just bet against the team Drake supports and you would always win. I mean, so far it works. Even in the 2022 World Cup, whenever Drake wears a team's shirt, poses for a photo with an athlete, or publicly shows his support for a team or an athlete, that person will lose. And guess what? You could also be affected by the Drake curse if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet. Seriously, click it. Talking about gambling, Drake loves gambling, having wagered over $1 billion. Billion with a B. There are a lot of people criticizing Drake's gambling addiction on how it affects his young fans and promotes gambling, but he never responds. You see, Drake is the type of guy that doesn't exactly follow the law, and he made insane efforts to hide his criminal past, crimes, and violent altercations. A lot of hip-hop culture revolves around guns, violence, or face-offs with the law. And while Drake has been mocked by some factions of the hip-hop game, and even fans for not being tough or never having been in a jail cell, he's certainly not been without his fair share of back and forths with law enforcement. Just recently, he got sued by Vogue publisher Condé Nast for distributing copies of his collab album with rapper 21 Savage. Her loss for featuring pictures of the pair on a fake Vogue cover. Nast is seeking at least $4 million in damages, but it is yet to be seen how that would play out. Drake has also faced multiple lawsuits in the past for featuring illegal samples in his songs. He was also sued for $2 billion. Yes, $2 billion, along with Travis Scott, Live Nation, and others for their roles in the Astroworld tragedy of November 2021, where multiple fans lost their lives in a stampede. And while Drake certainly doesn't like people seeing him getting his hands dirty, he is surrounded with people who are willing to do favors for him. And you wouldn't want to mess with his security. With that being said, in 2012, he did have a brawl with Chris Brown at a New York club, where he allegedly rejected a champagne peace offering from Breezy, then sent it back with a note saying, "I'm still fucking Rihanna." Mind you, this was not too long after the release of Take Care, and if you had only just listened to Take Care, you definitely would not have expected Drake to have that side to him. While he does whatever he does with Rihanna, she definitely isn't the only girl Drake is playing around with. He has even claimed to date 4 or 5 women at a time, which isn't even crazy by Hollywood standards. However, this doesn't mean some rumors aren't too strong to ignore. From the likes of Kylie Jenner, Bella Hadid, and Rihanna, to British singers Ray and Georgia Smith. The list is virtually endless. In his recent album, he even admitted to getting together with Ice Spice. I mean, whatever makes you happy. But the most fascinating thing is what he does when out on dates. Recently, he allegedly took model Cecilia Rose on a shopping date where she reportedly spent $300,000, which may be crazy for most people, but certainly not Drake, and that's not even the wildest thing Drake has done for his women in the past few months. In July 2021, he was spotted with reality TV star and model Johanna Leia in an intimate date they had at an empty Dodger stadium. Yep, you heard that right. He rented an entire stadium for a date, and the relationship was over just 3 months later. Now that we talked about what Drake likes, let's see what he owns. properties. A massive 50,000 square foot mansion with rooms as much as 44 feet high. In his hometown Toronto with amenities such as an NBA regulation-sized basketball court, crowned by a massive pyramidal skylight, a 10-car garage, and a monumental chandelier in the master bedroom with more than 20,000 pieces of hand-cut Swarovski crystals. The second largest installation of its kind in the world. It was designed by Canadian architectural and luxury interior designer Ferris Rafali and is valued at over $150 million. He also owns a $2.2 million Bugatti Veyron Sang Noir and a $3 million Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren. You could go on about Drake's properties because the list is basically endless. He even recently sold his YOLO estate for $12 million just a decade after purchasing it for $7.7 million. Drake was born rich, and he managed to stay that way. But some rappers are born with nothing, but they still manage to get insanely rich. These are rappers who were born broke but became rich. Just click the video.